All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming to Nonprofit Bites and Insights with Aparo. We are in the third and last of a three-part series around Microsoft Dynamics being led and sponsored by RSM. If you haven't gotten the chance to look at the last two webinars, we highly recommend it. Both of them are already up on our website. You will also be receiving a follow-up email from me, and I will be sure to include those links directly for you. Really quickly, before I turn it over to them, housekeeping details. This webinar as well is being recorded. Once it's done being rendered and everything, we'll be sure to post it up to the website as well. Again, you will also receive that follow-up email from me that will let you know that the link is ready for viewing, as well as the slide deck. At the bottom, you will see your toolbar should look something like this. Please feel free to use the chat bar to make any comments or questions. If you feel more comfortable putting your questions in the Q&A as well, you may do that too. Also, closed captioning is available if you'd like to use that. Really quickly, if you are new to Aparo, our mission is to transform the greater Charlotte community by connecting nonprofits to technology expertise and resources that amplify their impact. And we do this by connecting nonprofits with skilled volunteers in the areas of advice, education, and solutions as it relates to technology and business processes. So really quickly, under these three buckets of services, under advice, this is where typically our nonprofits go through first, where you meet with a tech therapist to discuss a technology need, to discuss your barriers, your challenges. This is also a space to get some coaching on your everyday tech challenges, or if you're looking for a vendor, we help support that as well. Under educations, if you are looking for a team training that's tailored to your team and what your team needs are, we offer that as well. And you are also attending our Nonprofit Bites and Insights, which falls under our education services. And then under solutions, these are our bigger projects. So if you are looking for a solution for your needs, such as a CRM, we have projects to support that as well. And then lastly, connect with us, subscribe to our email address, reach out to me, or you can visit our website at aparo.org/nonprofits to learn more and to submit a request if or when you are ready. If you love Aparo, please, we welcome any reviews from on our Google site. That is it for me. I will go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to the RSM team.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Yinting. I'm really excited to be here for our third part of this series. Again, I'm Michelle Juliana with RSM. We won't spend any more time introducing our company, but we will be happy to take questions as we go through our hour today. So this is the third part in our discussion around the Microsoft Dynamics platform, which is part of the Microsoft Cloud for nonprofits. Today, we're going to go beyond just the fundraising engagement and talk about our volunteers and how we expand our community of working with those volunteers. So I do want to introduce a few new team members today. I'm going to start with going back to Bob Kanzler, who kicked us off on day one, and then we'll introduce the rest of the team. Feel free to pop any questions right in the chat, and we'll address those either as we go along or at the end. All right, Bob, you ready?
Great, thank you. Appreciate that introduction, Michelle. So as Michelle had said, we have a couple of new people here. If you'd like to forward a couple slides here. We have Jackie Jambroni joining us again. We're also introducing Gaurav Chien, who is one of our Dynamics 365 customer engagement managers here, as well as Jensen Stanton, who is one of our data analysts and BI guys. And then we'll close again here with Michelle. So let's talk a little bit about where we are in our three-part series here. We've spent a good bit of time over the past two series talking about fundraising and engagement. And we're switching direction a little bit into volunteer management, but what I want to make sure we're doing, and it's kind of through this conversation here, is how does that all tie together? And with the Microsoft Cloud for Nonprofit, the data layer that the volunteer management sits on and the fundraising sits on is that same data layer. Microsoft calls it the Nonprofit Common Data Model or Nonprofit Common Data Service. You may hear it either way. But both of these modules, the fundraising, which we featured in our last segment, and the volunteer management we're going to feature today, sit on top of that same data. So we're able to see common challenges with having disconnected systems. So we can go to a person's record and we can see where they volunteered and how they've donated to us. So both of those pieces of information come together. Just a couple notes there on the side. This is a centralized system, so it should handle the majority of the front office of your nonprofit. Seamless integration to reports. Jensen's going to show us that today. It ties directly into Outlook. That's kind of like an out-of-the-box given. So nothing to figure out there. It does tie to event management systems, and we'll also see that we're able to handle a good bit of events as we look at today. And it gives you a 360-degree view of the person or the company that you're dealing with. So with that, we're going to jump right into the content and right into demos. We're going to start out with Jackie Jambroni. And when we think about volunteer management, we think about it from two different angles. One, from your employees and how your employees are going to interact with the system, right? But just as important, we're also going to look at it at the point of view of the volunteer and how the volunteer can interact with the system. And so Jackie's going to take us through how your employees are going to look and interact with the system. And then we're going to shift gears and Gaurav's going to talk to us about how a volunteer would interact with the system. So that's kind of our breakdown. And we'll flag that change in who we are and who we're looking at it from as it comes down the pike. So with that, Jackie, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting head nods. Before I jump into the actual demo part of this, I just wanted to pull this slide up to show what is included in the volunteer management module from a staff perspective. So there's a number of things you can do. You can do things such as scheduling, messaging and communication, looking at different volunteer groups, which I'll show all this in the demo. The other thing I wanted to point out is there are some requirements to use this module. So you do need Power Apps in order to use the volunteer management module. So give me one moment here and I will get into the exciting stuff. Let me pull up system. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Okay. So starting off, I'm now in the volunteer management module. You can see a lot of these screens look very similar to screens that we showed on our previous calls, just typical dynamics navigation. And I'll point some of that out as I'm going through the screens. So I'm starting off with the dashboard. On this particular dashboard, the daily dashboard, staff can come in and see things like published engagements. So that these are the opportunities that you're giving volunteers to come in and volunteer for your organization. In this particular view, I can see a full list of them, starting date, the number of volunteers that I have signed up for that particular engagement, and the minimum number I need in order for the engagement to work out properly. On the right-hand side here, I have volunteers that need to be reviewed. So staff can quickly get in and see what they need to do to get more volunteers involved. These are all of the applications that are yet to be reviewed in the system. And at the bottom here, I can see any engagements in draft. So these are opportunities that I have created, but not yet published out. So nobody's able to actually sign up and volunteer for these yet. Just like other views in the dynamic system, you're able to switch these quickly if you need to, and you're able to quickly create new or drill in. So before I actually drill into any of this information, I want to show one of the other dashboards. So those were all kind of list views, quick actions that staff can get in to get the volunteer opportunities rolling or get more volunteers on board. This has more of a visual representation. So on the left-hand side here, we have the number of engagements that we've posted monthly. So I can quickly come in and see, oh, okay, so March, we had a lot more opportunities than some of these other months for our volunteers. On the right-hand side, I can see the number of shifts that have been completed. So it's great to have somebody come in and sign up, but what really matters is how many people are showing up and actually doing that volunteering and finishing out their shift. So I can see that data here. At the bottom, this is a nice visual representation of the number of volunteers I have versus the number of volunteers I need. So for example, the Save the Soil drive, I can see I only have 1 volunteer currently signed up for this, and I need 20 for the event to be successful. The other really cool thing about these charts is say, all right, the visual really gave me the info I need, but I need to see the details. I can drill in and see the actual detail, click on one, and it drills down for me. And then from here, if I want to jump into the opportunity, I can. So the drill down functionality within here really helps streamline your staff's capability. So the dashboards, quick way to see what you need to do that day. The other thing I want to pull up is activities. This is another way for staff to quickly come in and see what's been done recently and what else they need to do. So you can see here, I had a couple emails, a couple messages. These were already completed. At the top here, I can filter this down and say, all right, what are my overdue activities? And I see here, oh, okay, so I have a couple onboarding tasks that I need to complete. They're actually overdue. For example, the background check. I need to come in here and I make sure I review Ashley's background check before she can move forward with signing up for volunteer activities. So very quick ways for your staff to get in and know what they need to do for the day. Let's jump into an actual engagement. So over here, you can see the full list of engagements I have available. Notice some of these have different statuses. So published to web means that's open. People can start applying for that opportunity. We have some things in draft, so that is not ready yet for the public to apply for, and some that are closed, events that have finished. So I'm going to click into one of these particularly, the year-end garden cleanup. So one of my favorite visuals here, you can see some stats like right up front. So you see I have 3 different shifts for this particular event. I can see the number of volunteers I need for that particular shift and the number that I have. So the afternoon shift I have covered. The morning shift, we really didn't need anyone, but if someone wants to sign up for AM, they could. I can see the number of applications I still have in review, if anyone's canceled on us, and how many days I have until the actual opportunity happens. Below this, I can see a list of participants. So I can see a couple in review. If I click in here, I can see Alexia has the afternoon shift assigned to her. On the right side here, I can see any communication that has happened within this event. And one of my favorite features, quick for your staff, is I can message all the participants. So say, oh no, the event's canceled today. I can quickly send them that message and it will go to all of the volunteers for this particular engagement opportunity. Really quick, your staff doesn't have to do an email from their personal email. It's right out of the system. Everyone has access to see what is going on. Really quick setup for these engagements. So a description can be quickly set up and this will show to your volunteers on the portal. Location information. Requirements. So there's a couple different areas of requirements. We have qualifications. So say I want somebody with earth and environmental sciences qualifications, but it's not necessarily required. I am able to set that. If there are particular certifications, for example, they need for this volunteer activity, I can actually set those to required. And then this also shows your volunteer to be able to filter and search opportunities. On the right-hand side, we also have preferences. So if there's different kind of preferences we want to set with the opportunity, we have that ability to as well. The schedule is very easy to set up, so you can do this by multiple days. This particular event is just a single day, and we can set up the shifts. The min and max is actually calculated by the shifts. So you can see I had a minimum number of participants, 1 and 1. That's where the 2 came from. If I click into one of these, super simple to set up. I need at least 1 person, no more than 3, the times, and it calculates the hours for me. If I jump into message settings, very cool, like I kind of showed on the first tab there. These are automated messages. So really easy for your staff. There's a couple different options. So you can send an automated message when a sign up's completed, when a sign up is approved, and when the engagement is over. And then you're able to pick who that message goes to. There's a couple different options in the drop down here. And then you can tailor your message to the team. So your staff doesn't even have to think about it. They set it up when they set up the engagement, and these messages are fired off automatically to the volunteers. Lastly, participants. So this is very similar to the view we looked at on the first tab. We can see here we have Aaron that still needs to be reviewed. So the nice thing about this, similar to the dashboards, I can click directly in and start looking at that application. So now I'm on Aaron's application. Say I want to go in and review more information about Aaron before I approve his application. I could come in here, say I'm interested in, okay, what qualification and preferences does he have? Oh, look, earth sciences, that was one of our qualifications. It wasn't required, but that's great. Oh, one of the preferences, Spanish speaking, that was actually one of our preferences. This seems like a great fit. I can click the back arrow and I'm back in the application. I can say, yep, you're approved. Let that save there. And then the next thing is to make sure I assign a schedule. So if I just click enter here, it pulls up the schedules available. Say I'm going to assign them to the afternoon shift. And now he is all set to volunteer with our group. One other cool thing is if they're part of volunteer groups, it can be part of one or many. I can check that out too. So the Microsoft group, I could get in and see, oh, okay, what other contacts might he have? Maybe I want to try to recruit them as well. I can see that information and I can see the group's entire history. Looks like Aaron's the only one that's actually volunteered from this group. Maybe he can start getting his group more active. So very cool how you can see the relationships across the volunteers and quickly get the applicants signed up for the particular event. The last thing I want to show before I hand this off is the shift schedule. So some of us are visual, and I find this is very handy. So I can see all the opportunities happening in a day, a month. So I can see my event is on the 7th. There are a lot of other things going on. So that's something to consider. How do we want to spread our volunteers across these events? When do we want to schedule our next event to make sure that they're not all happening at the same time? All right, I'm going to hand it off to you, Gaurav, to show what it looks like from the volunteers' experience.
Sure. Thank you.
Would you like me to
Jack.
pull up your slide?
If you can, that'll be great.
Let me get that up for you.
Okay, so while this is coming up over here, so good afternoon, everybody. So what we just saw was one side of the volunteering or volunteer management, where you, as a volunteer coordinator or engagement coordinator, you can manage your opportunities, volunteers. Now what we're going to look at is how do you engage these volunteers? How do you get them involved with a lot of opportunities or engagement volunteering that's happening within your organization? How do you keep them up to date in terms of what's coming up, what's planned? Plus also, how do they keep you up to speed in terms of what their contact informations are, what their preferences are, if they have gone through new certifications or they have some change of qualification, how do they have a mechanism to update the coordinator so that you can identify them for any of the volunteering opportunities that you're going to plan for. And that's where the whole volunteer engagement aspect came into life from Microsoft, where the biggest challenge that we wanted to solve for was how do we track or how do we keep these volunteers engaged? Plus also, how can we keep this all hassle free where there's seamless communication between the coordinators, volunteers, and the whole group can act as one single group, and there is some seamless integration that's happening. So in the portal, what we are going to see here today is the ability to obviously look at what are the various opportunities for volunteering that are available. Volunteers will have the capability to manage their own profile. So for example, I change my address, so I can go and update my address. Or if I decide to change my email or contact information, or for that matter, if I want to, I'm going on vacation for the month of December, so I can put that out over there so that nobody pings me during December for any of the new opportunities that they're planning for. What we're also going to see is a way to donate to the organization because you really love that cause that you're working for. Plus also there's also secure authentication that is tied to the portal, which means that if you are using any kind of Azure Active Directory, Facebook's, Gmail's, Google for your authentication, the same technology can be leveraged on these portals that you're going to look at in a moment here. So Jackie, I'll take over the screen share from here. And perfect. Here we go. I'm assuming you can see my screen here. Okay, I see some nods. Perfect. So this is the out of the box volunteer portal that is part of Microsoft Cloud for Nonprofit. One great thing about this portal is that it is seamlessly connected with Microsoft Cloud for Nonprofit or the platform itself. What really it means is that there is no custom code required, or you don't need a dedicated IT staff to manage or maintain this portal. What you see here is all built into Dynamics. Any changes that you decide to make in your engagement in your Cloud for Nonprofit will show up over here. And a great example is when Jackie was showing the opportunity year-end garden cleanup. When she publishes that opportunity, it automatically shows up over here. There's no middleman that's working to make things happen on the portal. So what you're looking at is a quick dashboard of things that I can see on the portal when I log in. This is highly configurable as well. So if you want to make things, move things around here, we can do that. You're looking at a list of available opportunities where a volunteer can volunteer and check out the details. But on the left here in the navigation pane, you can see various filters where you can identify the right opportunity for you. So for example, if I want to do a preference filter and click apply, I can see an year-end garden cleanup. That's the only opportunity where the preference is handling animals. Similarly, I can clear up over here and change to Spanish speakers. And I can see there's nothing for Spanish speaking at this time, but there will be more in future. I also have the ability to filter by dates or based on city, if I'm looking for a specific city to volunteer for. You also have the capability to search your volunteering opportunities by title, given in this scenario where the list is long, to search from the available opportunities. In the center, we have built this unique feature over here, which is something that we added as part of the portal because we thought this is a key piece to add to this portal, which is the Donate Now page. When you click on the Donate Now page, it will prompt you with a page which looks like this, where you can decide how much money you want to pay, or you can also decide the frequency in terms of how much donation or when do you want to donate for your cause as well. You have ability to provide your donor details, plus also provide your credit card information or pay through PayPal as well. If I scroll to the top, if I go to the top right corner, this is my profile page where I can go and update my contact information. So this is where I can update my preferred contact method, plus also any change of addresses, but also have the ability to manage or change my emails and password. I have the ability to select my preferences and qualification, where I've over here I've said I want my qualifications are these two, where if you have any opportunities, I can filter out based on these two filters. I can also add a new filter preferences over here as needed. On the portal, I have the capability to look at what are the upcoming events that I can go to support my cause. Right now, there's one available program, and they're trying to raise this much of money for the cause here. At the same time, I have the ability to look at all my past engagements that I have participated in. Let me quickly go back to the main page here and pull up the engagement opportunity that Jackie was showing in the demo earlier. So click on view details here. What you're seeing here is the details that were in the center screen of when Jackie had the engagement opportunity pulled up. On the right, I have the qualifications and also the location where this event is going to happen. I can also look at the schedule so that I can decide what schedule I should be participating in. But also in the center, I'm seeing the preferences and also the dates when the event is about to happen. If you see here, it's a prompt which said that there's still 2 more volunteers. That means that I can still register. So this goes back to the setting where you can decide how many minimum or maximum volunteers you need. So if I can go ahead and click on apply now, it will go through the approval process, and then it will give me a message that you have been applied. And then as an engagement director, I can look this registration in the volunteer management section of the product itself. So perfect. So now it has applied. When I go to my opportunity here and refresh my screen real quick, I should see my name over here, which showed up, and I was logged in as Brett. As a coordinator, I can quickly come here, approve, and then based on the message settings that are over here, I will get the message as a volunteer that, hey, your sign up is approved. Look forward for the next steps. One great thing about this portal is that you can access this on your mobile devices as well. There are capabilities where you can pin this page on your mobile devices as a mobile app, from where you can easily access and log in to the portal itself to make sure you are up to date in terms of what's happening next. Another great feature about this whole volunteer engagement and management is that it is closely tied to Microsoft Teams and Microsoft SharePoint, so that it's easy to coordinate in terms of schedules, have video calls, or for that matter, share documents. So these are all native capabilities that are built in as part of volunteer management and engagement, so that there's no custom code required for you to make these integration happen. It's mostly a setup process from the initial stages. But this is where I will pause and pass it on to Jensen.
Yep. Thank you, Gaurav. Jackie, if you're able to pull the slides back up. So Jackie and Gaurav kind of showed the system itself from both the back end and the front end. So I'm here to kind of talk about the different options for reporting from data in volunteer management, specifically with Power BI. Y'all have probably experienced these presentations where we talk about how seamless the integration is between Dynamics and the Power BI environment. So kind of going to go into that and go in a little bit of a demo on kind of what data you can pull out of Dynamics and what kind of metrics and custom calculations you can report on in a different reporting system. So we know that CE has kind of that out of the box reporting. Jackie showed some of that. You can customize some of those system dashboards and views within the system itself. itself, but we are kind of limited on some of those customizations. So why Power BI? What we would use Power BI for is that seamless integration between the volunteer management, the Dynamics environment, and the Power BI application itself using that OData connection. I don't have to fuss with anything like a data warehouse or any kind of more IT setup that we might see using other applications. So using the Power BI with Dynamics, with that OData connection makes it really easy for me to kind of get up and go and start building reports pretty quickly. Like I said, there's more of that customization for my analytics and metrics. So if there's things that are specific to my organization or certain key metrics that I want to look at, I can build that out in Power BI, get a little more of an in-depth view, get some of those more insightful analytics. And then beyond that, I can deploy my reports to something like the Power BI service. So I can distribute it among my organization, have that collaboration between all of my kind of report users and my data analysts and business analysts. It also helps to create maybe interesting visualizations for presentations or newsletters. If you have to give a presentation to a board or potential donors or something, having a Power BI report that has really interesting visuals and things that people can kind of latch onto from a visual perspective really helps with that data storytelling to get you where you want to go. And then there's also kind of this roundabout ability, kind of bringing it back. You can embed Power BI dashboards into the Dynamics environment. So say you pull out data into Power BI and you create a report, you can pin certain visuals on those report into a dashboard, and then in turn embed that dashboard back into D365. So you kind of get the whole loop is closed in terms of getting data out of the D365, putting it into Power BI, creating those custom metrics and visuals that I want, and then putting it back into the system for my my staff to view. So then if you go to the next slide, Jackie, these are just kind of some examples of kind of that out of the box reporting. Jackie showed some of it. So there we have kind of some bar charts, and we can see our active volunteer participations, things like that. That's all great. That gives me good insight into what's happening in my organization. And then the next slide too, Jackie showed that as well, kind of seeing those different breakdowns in that daily dashboard there. But we can also do a little bit better. So if you go to the next slide, this is kind of an idea of kind of different metrics we can pull out and create different visuals, things that will give us more insight into what's going on in our organization. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of look at one of these reports. I do want to quickly preference by saying I'm at the mercy of the demo data that's in the system. So just keep that in mind. It might not be very robust, or maybe the numbers don't make a whole ton of sense, but I want you to kind of see the big picture of what can we do with the data that we pull out of the system? What are some different things that we could look at and use to make decisions on? Can everybody see my screen here with the Power BI report? So this is kind of a quick report that I put together. This maybe took me a day to make. And like I said, I didn't have to deal with that a data warehouse or any kind of complex data infrastructure on the back end. I just use that OData connection. I can grab that link from my CRM, put it straight into my Power BI desktop, and then start developing, grab the tables and entities that I need, and just kind of start dragging and dropping and creating these awesome visuals. So some things that I kind of put together here, again, don't get caught up on the numbers. I want you to look at big picture, kind of what can we see. So I can see maybe my applied participants over time. So maybe I had a spike in May, but there was a decrease in my applied participants to my events kind of as the winter months came in. So maybe that's attributed to the weather, maybe our engagement kind of slacked over the holidays. But that can give us kind of insight on, okay, maybe we need to keep up our engagement during the holidays, send out more opportunities, maybe set up more events. And then we can see kind of, again, we spike during the summer, people are more available, maybe they're more likely to be outside or get out of the house to go do some of these events. I can look at things like, where are my volunteers located? I can see I have a great spread all over the country of my volunteers, how many are in each location, things like that. I have a lot in LA and Chicago, but I really have folks all over the country. And then I also can look at things related to my engagement opportunities. So where are my engagements happening? How many volunteers showed up at my engagements? when during the year did they happen, and is there kind of a peak time? We can kind of see that here. If I pull out the number of events over time, I can see that in the summer, I have a lot of events happening, which again, maybe makes sense. People want to get out of the house, people are more engaged, school's out, people have more free time. Maybe in the winter, I don't have as many opportunities for my volunteers to get engaged. I can maybe look at where have my events happened. So it looks like I had a fair amount on the East Coast and then one in California. That's going to give visibility into what's going on in my organization, because I can look at this and say, okay, it looks like I've had events happening in these specific locations. But if I look at where my volunteers are located, I have a lot of volunteers kind of in the Great Lakes region. So maybe I should start programming more opportunities in the Great Lakes region to kind of increase that engagement. And we can all see that again from the data that's in the system that we seamlessly integrated into Microsoft Power BI. I can take a look at things like how many participants did we have based on what the location is. Now that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, people are maybe more eager to go on site or be in person for some of these events. We can kind of see here that our on location events had more participation than some of our virtual events. And then I can just kind of break down, get a better idea of how many people applied, if there was anyone who canceled, no shows, and the kind of the number of volunteer hours that were logged at each of these events. And then I can have my volunteer detail page, can use the Power BI capabilities of drilling through things like that. I have my slicers up here. I can look at a very specific point in time. If there's something I'm looking at, look at my, at a point in time, look at how many volunteers are in each group, my top volunteers, things like that. I can slice on the group type or the state, how many are in Colorado, and this will give me a good idea of kind of the data living in there. And then same thing, I want to look at location type. I can filter my Power BI on that, get some more insights there, look at my different events, things like that. I can look at this event that happened in Georgia. Looks like the 3 applied participants for the both location, nobody canceled, and there were 90 hours logged at that event. That's awesome. Maybe I can program more events like this because I know this was a successful event. So all of that to just kind of demonstrate there's a lot of other metrics you can pull out of your dynamic system seamlessly. Again, using that OData connection, you can go to town right away building these reports. And then once you put it kind of in this Power BI service environment, you can distribute it among your organization. You can have folks collaborate with those different data sets. And then you can really kind of build out that robust analytics and metrics that you might need for your organization. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Michelle.
All right. I think we've only had one question so far. Just quickly, I think for most of you have seen this before in terms of questions that we can answer. Jackie, you can move this forward. Really just anything around how nonprofits operate from either an accounting perspective, really the systems environment. We can certainly help you choose the right systems and implement many of those middle market, mid-size applications like Sage Intacct, NetSuite, and Microsoft Dynamics, like you've seen here today, both the accounting and the CRM capabilities. We do a lot of outsourcing for both accounting and IT, and strategy work just to help you figure out where do you start and what direction that you want to go. So the next thing we wanted to make sure that you're aware of is we do have 2 events coming up, and we have the registration and information right here with a QR code and a web link. So we'll be sending this out to you afterwards. One is a Microsoft user event, the Innovation Summit. We have these quarterly, we have hundreds of people on there learning all kinds of things about Microsoft technologies. It changes every quarter. Great agenda, and we are going to be spotlighting some of the things that you've seen in this series. And then we also have an in-person event, Power Platform in a Day, which is going to be in December in Raleigh, specifically for nonprofits, sponsored with Microsoft in their office. So want to make you aware of those 2 opportunities. Please reach out to me if you have questions on any of these, and I can help connect you with the right people. Bob, there was one question. Maybe you can help just answer that one in case people didn't see it.
Sorry, I had to come off the dreaded mute here. So yeah, there was a question about, I'm sorry, let me pull it back up again. There was a question about being able to, I'm gonna kind of thin down the question a little bit. Are we able to add fields to the system, and can those fields be calculated? In this particular case, the individual was looking for to be able to put a number around a volunteering event, and the answer to that's yes. The system is configurable, and we can have calculations tied to the tied to the a particular event or the volunteering activity. So that's the answer there. There's one other thing I wanted to say, Michelle, on this particular slide is that Power Platform in a Day. Michelle highlighted the Raleigh event, but we also have the sessions taking place in other cities on the East Coast. So if you're a colleague or interested in attending Power Platform, that's a great event. Michelle, does it make sense to take a second to talk about what Power Platform is and how it's
Sure.
relative here?
Yeah.
So Power Platform is Microsoft technology that allows you to create forms. And those forms are something that can be used internally, they can be used externally through a portal, and they can also be utilized in a native app on your phone. So I'm an older guy, and I think about Access and how people used Access in the early 2000s. And Power Platform, to me, if that's relative to you, that may be something to think about with Power Platform. But Access was used at that point in time to put a nice front end on data, and it put a nice front end giving people the ability to key in data and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I think about Power Platform. It's a lot more than that, and I did kind of simplify it a good bit there. But if you're looking to create nice front ends and manipulating your data in a Microsoft used the term citizen developer in a way that somebody can actually do something on their own, that's Power Platform. So really cool tool, very inexpensive, especially in the nonprofit place. With that, though, there have been some questions around licensing. So we have a next slide there. Slide 18. So two things are on this slide. First is what are the Microsoft components that make up the various tools that you could be looking for. In a lot of cases, we've been showing mainly Sales Enterprise, and a lot of the nonprofit cloud sits on Sales Enterprise. In Sales Enterprise, I put a QR code there. If you want to hit that QR code, that takes you to Microsoft's nonprofit licensing. And there's a reason why I took you to their website as opposed to trying to talk about what the pricing is there's a lot of kind of ways that things happen, right? So for instance, if you're an organization, you can get Microsoft Business Basic for free, up to 300 people. And that's going to give you Outlook, that's going to give you Teams, which are two of the components that we see showing up here. But in addition to that, Microsoft also has, for qualified nonprofits, it has Dynamics licensing discounted, and that discount is about $28 a user. But then on top of that discounting, they give a grant for 10 free licenses. So if you're looking at utilizing these technologies and you have less than 10 people, there's a good possibility the licensing costs on this will be next to nothing. I would never say it's free, but really next to nothing. And then the portal component is something that is done based on a per login. So you would basically work to figure out how many people do you think you would have logging in, and then you kind of buy these batches from Microsoft. So that's the only thing that's kind of a little hard to figure out is how much portal utilization you're going to have. So hopefully that that answers some of our questions from the earlier session around licensing. But if somebody's got a specific question, we can try to get that answered through the Q&A, or if you want to come in.
Yeah, and one thing, the power of this platform, as you can see, is all the different elements and how they work well together. We didn't really talk too much today about the use of Teams, but for those of you that are Microsoft Teams users, as I know Aparo is, I think what's really powerful is using Teams not just to communicate internally, but also to create an experience for your volunteers. Bob, can you just talk a little bit about that, or Jackie, either of you?
Sure. I can talk about that. Jackie, if you wouldn't mind refreshing the slides. We threw a couple slides, 2 slides above. Hopefully they got in there. Maybe they didn't. But these slides specifically look at the Teams component. Yep, right there, Jackie. 17 and 18. All right, so this is really focusing on how volunteer management, and specifically externally facing, how we can utilize it. So there is a Teams component, and one thing that's pretty cool is that if we have an event, we can then set up a Teams group, and that Teams group will allow the people that are supporting that event, the volunteers, to communicate directly via either sharing documents or through instant message, IM, or they can even schedule a video conference, and all of that is done for that volunteer. They don't need a license because they're part of the event. So that's one thing I'm not sure that we highlighted as well as we could have during this presentation, but we're able to manage the volunteers, and then we're able to give them tools to communicate and essentially manage themselves out in the field. Now, we have complete control of that, right? So we can shut it down. Somebody starts to go rogue. Nobody ever does that. But if somebody were to go rogue, we could kind of shut them down and potentially remove them from providing communication and receiving it only, or we can remove them from the communication altogether. And Jackie, there's one more slide there that I threw in last minute. And this is highlighting the sharing of information. So you'll see up in the top left-hand corner, the technology that's being used is SharePoint, which is something that's out for your volunteers. So if they wanted to check a calendar, or if they wanted to pass along a document, or if they want to have a document filled out, that could be all done through SharePoint. So it's just really using the power of the Microsoft platform to enable both your internal as well as your external helpers.
All right, great. Thank you for adding that, Bob. I just think it's such a powerful capability. I wanted to make sure you all saw it. So I think we're at the end of our time if we don't have any more questions. It's really been a fun series. I hope you'll take the time to go back and look through the presentations, and even the recordings are available. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions on anything we've talked about, and especially if you want to start exploring how to use this in your own organization.
Thank you so much. Michelle, one more question. So for those who are interested in either learning more or even going with Dynamics, what do you recommend are the best next steps?
Yeah, that's really the best thing to do, is just to contact us and we can walk you through the process. Just go back, the easiest way is just to contact me directly. My email is on that last slide, and Yinting, you can include that in the follow-up communication. And then what I can do is just, we can have a preliminary conversation. I'll bring in, the right people to work with you, and we can just kind of help you explore if it's the right fit for your organization, and what's involved with an implementation, what the timing looks like, the cost, all those questions that everybody is wrestling with. So that's really the best place to start, because really every situation is slightly different, even though you all have a lot in common.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for sticking around. This was an amazing series. We learned a lot. Expect the follow-up email to come by the end of tomorrow. Again, that'll include the recording as well as the slide deck, and I will be sure to include Michelle's contact information as well. That's it for today.
Thank you all.
Everyone have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.